Please mute yourself. Good afternoon, students. We have to start from page 61. On one such journey, passing through the muddy streets of a small village. So, Mr. Heathcote, he wanted to make the best use of the time he got in China. And so he didn't take any leave and he used to travel to the outskirts of the city, right, to the outskirts of Peking. And one day he happened to visit a village, Halichuan, right, a distance of 50 miles from Peking, which was at a distance of 50 miles from the city of Peking. Sir Alexander chanced upon an old craftsman's working place. Leaving his servants, the minister dismounted from his horse. So he just got down. The moment he reached that village, he saw an old craftsman's working place, a workshop of an old craftsman he saw, and he was so much attracted towards that shop because it has been told earlier that he had deep liking for all these, for the Chinese culture, tradition, and especially the statues, the art and craft of China. And so he just dismounted from his horse and entered the ramshackle wooden workshop. Ramshackle means in a very bad condition, right? Something which needs repair, which needs repair. Wooden workshop to admire the delicate pieces of ivory and jade that crammed the shells. Crammed the shells means the shells were full of those pieces, right? They were just huddled in that shell. Shells were full, they were packed with those pieces of a statue made of ivory and jade. Jade, I have already told you, it's a green colored stone. From floor to the ceiling. So there were many statues kept there. Although modern, the pieces were superbly executed by an experienced craft. So though these statues, they didn't seem to be antique, they didn't seem to be very old, but they were very beautiful. They have been, there was no doubt about this fact that they have been designed by a very experienced and a very skilled craftsman. And the ministrix entered the little hut with the thought of acquiring a small memento of his journey. So he just entered the hut thinking that he will take something from there, which will be a memory of his visit to China. Right? Like a memoir, he will take something from that place. Once in the shop, he could hardly move in any direction for fear of knocking something over. The building had not been designed for a 3.25 visitor. So, because he was very tall and Chinese people, they are not so tall, right? He was more than normal. His height was more than normal. He was 6 feet, 3 inches and a quarter. So, he faced a lot of difficulty in trying to move inside the hut because the first thing was that he was too tall, and the other reason was that there were so many statues which were kept there. The hut was almost full of statues and figures, so that is why he didn't want that anything should tumble down and fall and break. So that is why he was walking very carefully, and it was very uncomfortable for him to move inside that hut. Sir Alexander stood still and enthralled. Enthralled means he was completely charmed with the beauty which he saw inside that hut. He was completely mesmerized by the statues which were there. That so many statues and figurines were there, taking in the fine scented jasmine smell that hung in the air. So he was inhaling that jasmine smell inside that hut and looking at the statues. An old craftsman bustled forward in a long blue woolly robe, a flat black hat to greet him. A jet black pleated pigtail fell down his back. So, what happened when he was just looking at these statues which were there inside the hut? The person who was working there, the artisan who was working there, he was dressed. This fully robe you must have seen if you have seen the picture of these Chinese, especially lower class and the middle class people. They used to wear a robe kind of a thing, right? That loose fitting garment. So that is a fully robe. Fully robe is normally a robe which was worn by the low class people of China. Right? So it's a reference to that. It was their traditional dress kind of a thing. And a pigtail. Pigtail means you must have seen the pictures of Chinese and their flat hat. The hat was round and flat. You can see the traditional dress of China. You will come to know. So a person who was wearing a blue colored robe and a flat hat, he came forward and he made a plaited pigtail, fell down his back. So he bowed very low. So this is how the Chinese they greet, right? He bowed. It's written bowed. Please remove L from there. He was not bowling, right? Not playing cricket there. So he bowed. Remove L. There is the word has been misspelled. Very low and then looked up at the giant from England. Giant from England because of the huge structure, right? The huge size of Mr. Heathcote. So he must be a giant for that small craftsman. So he looked up, first he bowed and then he looked up at the giant from England. That is, he looked at Mr. Heathcote. The minister returned the bow while the Mandarin explained who Sir Alexander was and his desire to be allowed to look at the work of the craftsman. So the minister he returned the greetings by bowing again. So he also bowed and he returned the greeting. And then because he was accompanied by a Mandarin who translated everything, who explained the artisan, who explained to the craftsman what was the reason, what was the purpose of Sir Alexander's visit to his shop, his workshop. Right? The old man was nodding in agreement even before the Mandarin had come to the end of his visit. So the old man, that is the old craftsman, he started nodding. He was nodding in agreement. So he was nodding in agreement. And you nod in agreement like this. So he started nodding in agreement even before the Mandarin could explain everything properly, right? So that is what it means that he gave his consent even before the Mandarin finished his explanation. For over an hour, the minister sighed and chuckled as he studied many of the pieces with admiration and finally returned to the old man to praise his skill. So, for more than an hour, what did this minister? Because he was very fond of those things, right? So he was completely lost in the beauty of all those figurines and statues which were kept there. If you like something, you're very fond of something and you get a large amount of that particular thing, what will you do? You will be lost. So the same thing happened to this minister. He was completely lost in those statues and he went from one statue to another, right? From one shelf to another, admiring each and every piece. And he did that for approximately more than an hour, right? And then he must have and he sighed and chuckled. Chuckle means he became very happy. Chuckling means when you laugh without making noise, right? That internal satisfaction. Why was he chuckling? Because he got a lot of satisfaction. He was always hungry for those statues and for Chinese art and Chinese craft. And so the moment he got an opportunity, he got so many statues to admire in one go. He was so excited that he started sighing. Sighing means taking deep breaths and chuckling. He became very happy as he studied many pieces with admiration. So he, with a lot of admiration and love for those statues, he looked at many of them. And then in the end, he
Ma'am,
came
just
back.
a minute. Sorry for interrupting. Pranjal and Kaustubh.
Okay. The craftsman bowed once again, and his shy smile revealed no teeth but only genuine pleasure at Sir Alexander's coming. So he smiled once again. The old craftsman was very happy that a great person like Sir Alexander, he praised his craft and his skill, his craftsmanship was praised, so he was very happy. And then he returned his these compliments with a smile. And then he came to know that there were no teeth. So this shows that he was a very old man. Pointing a finger to the back of the shop. He beckoned the two important visitors to follow. So beckon means to signal, right? To signal someone using gesture, right? When you say na like this or any gesture, right? So here he gestured him to come, to follow. So he pointing a finger to the back of the shop. Then he gestured this Mr. Heathcote and the Mandarin to please come to the end of the back side of the shop to follow him. They did so and entered a veritable Aladdin's cave. So what did they do? They did that. They followed him. They followed his gesture, and then they entered a veritable. Veritable means something which is truly right. So truly they entered Aladdin's cave. So the place where they entered, the back of the shop was like the cave of Aladdin, with row of beautiful miniature emperors and classical figures. So what was there in the back of the shop? There were row upon row, and in each row, what was kept? Miniature emperors. There's a small miniature emperors means a small here means a small statues of emperors of the different dynasties of China and classical figures, right? So all these figures and statues of the great emperors were kept there. The minister could have happily settled down in the orgy of ivory for at least a week. So the minister, it was such a wonderful place for the minister that he could have happily lived with those statues for another week, right? He would have been very happy to spend a week with those statues, admiring them, looking at them, and feeling happy about it. Sir Alexander and the craftsman chatted away to each other through the interpreter. So, because Sir Alexander didn't know Chinese and the craftsman didn't know English, so they chatted through the Mandarin, they conversed, they talked to each other. And the minister's love and knowledge of the Ming dynasty was soon revealed. And while talking, the craftsman came to know about the great knowledge and the love and his passion for the Ming dynasty, right? That he was very fond of the Ming dynasty and he was aware of the Chinese history also. The little craftsman's face lit up with this discovery and he turned to the Mandarin and in a hushed voice made a request. So when the little craftsman, why? Because he was a short-heighted person. So the little craftsman, the little here doesn't mean that he was very young. The little here means that he was short-heighted. So that short-heighted craftsman's face lit up. Means he became very happy when he came to know about Mr. Heathcote and he came to know about his knowledge. And so what did he do? He turned to the Mandarin. He went to the Mandarin and in a hushed voice means very softly. In a very soft voice, he made some request in Chinese to the Mandarin. He said something in a very soft voice to the Mandarin. The Mandarin nodded his agreement and translated. So the Mandarin, what did he do? He agreed to whatever the craftsman said and then he translated whatever was uttered by the craftsman to Mr. Heathcote. I have your excellency. This is what the craftsman said. That I have your excellency a piece of Ming myself that you might care to see. A statue that has been in my family for over 7 generations. So he said that now because you are so fond and you have such great knowledge about the Ming dynasty, so I would like to show you a statue which I have, and that statue has been with me for 7 generations. Right? So again, it was like a family heirloom of that craftsman also. It transferred from one generation to another. So he said that I want to show you that statue of the Ming emperor which had been with me for 7 generations. I should be honored, said the minister. So the minister said, yes, I would be very happy and I will feel honored at having a look of that statue. It is I who would be honored, Your Excellency. So the craftsman said that no, sir, I would feel honored on showing you that statue, said the little man, who thereupon scampered out. Scampering again means moving with very short and quick steps. Right? So with short steps, he left these Chinese people, they have a strange way of walking. You must have seen in the television. They don't run, they don't walk, but they walk with very short steps, right? Nowadays you won't find, but if you see old movies, you will find the way they used to walk. Their traditional gait. Scampered out of the back door, nearly falling over the stray dog. And the way he was walking, he almost fell on over the stray dog and on to an old peasant house a few yards behind the workshop. So he left that workshop and went to an old peasant house, which was some distance away from the workshop. The minister and the mandarin remained in the back room, and the minister and the mandarin were there in the workshop itself. For Sir Alexander knew the old man would never have considered inviting an honored guest into his humble home until they had known each other for many years, and only then after he had been invited to Sir Alexander's home first. Now, this was also a Chinese tradition, right? We'll come to know a lot of Chinese tradition without reading this. So, uh, this was a Chinese tradition. Why did this old man, this old craftsman, didn't ask Mr. Heathcote and the Mandarin to come to his place, to come to his humble hut? Why? Because it was a Chinese tradition that if you have some guest who is an honorable guest, right, who belongs to a higher class than you are, then you are not supposed to invite that guest to your place unless the guest has invited you earlier in the past. So first, it was a Chinese tradition that the person who belongs to the honorable class of the society, that person, that guest needs to invite you first to his place, and then only you can invite that person to your humble dwelling. So humble means of a very low class, a very meek kind of a house. So until they had known each other, or the other reason for this invitation could be that they had been acquainted with each other. But both the conditions were not true in this case. Neither the craftsman was acquainted to Mr. Heathcote, right? He was not known to Mr. Heathcote. He was meeting him for the first time. And the second condition, that is, he should have first visited Mr. Heathcote's place. That was also not true. That also didn't happen. So that is why the old man, he didn't invite him to his dwelling. And he left Mr. Heathcote and the Mandarin there in the workshop itself. A few minutes passed before the little blue figure here means the craftsman, before the little blue figure came trotting back, pigtail bouncing up and down on his shoulder. So he was trotting. Trotting again means with a not walking also and not running also. Somewhere in between walking and running with the short steps, right? Then you take very short steps and you kind of walk very fast, which cannot be classified as a run also, and which cannot be classified as a walk also. Some between them. So trotting up and down, and then the pigtail which he had made, that was bouncing up and down, and he came back to the workshop after a few minutes. He was now clinging on to something that from the very way he held it close to his chest had to be a treasure. So what was he doing? He was holding something very tightly against his chest, and the way he was holding it made it very obvious that that particular thing which he is holding is something very valuable. That something needs to be very valuable from the way he was holding it. The craftsman passed the piece over for the minister to study, and the moment he entered the workshop, he gave that piece to the minister to have a look at it. Sir Alexander's mouth opened wide, as he could not hide his excitement. And Sir Alexander, because he was seeing his statue, an antique piece which had been very, very old, hundreds of years old, because from the past 7 generations, the statue was with the craftsman. Just imagine how old and how antique that statue would have been. So he became very happy, and that excitement was very obvious on his face. It was very difficult for Mr. Heathcote to hide that excitement. The little statue, no more than 6 inches in height, was of Emperor Kong, and that was the statue of Emperor Kong. And as fine an example of Ming as the minister had seen. And the minister had seen such a fine example, such an excellent example of Chinese craft for the first time. Sir Alexander felt confident that the maker was a great painter. So he became confident. Sir Alexander felt that because the statue is so old and the statue was of Emperor Kong, so the statue must have been made by Pentu. Pentu was again a great artist of China. So the statue must have been made by great Pentu, who had been patronized by the emperor, who was there during the time of the emperor himself, who was there during the time of Emperor Kong himself. So that the date must have been around the turn of the 15th century. And because Sir Alexander himself had some knowledge about the Ming dynasty, and he must have read about Emperor Kong, so he must have read about Pentu also, because he was fond of studying the Chinese architecture. So, sorry, not architecture, right? Chinese art, right? So that is why he could estimate on looking at the statue, because when he looked at the statue, he felt that the statue is such a fine piece of art that this must have been made by that great artist Pentu himself. And Pentu was a sculptor who lived during the time of Emperor Q. So that is why he said that the statue must be dated around the turn of the 15th century. So the statue was very old. This is what the minister, that is the minister he thought. The statue's only blemish was that the ivory base on which such piece usually rests was missing. So the only flaw, blemish means the flaw. So the only flaw, the only defect in the statue was that the base was missing. You know what is a base? The statues are normally kept. Even small statues also, they are kept on some base. There is a rectangular platform kind of a thing on which they are fixed. So that base was missing. So this was the only blemish or only flaw or only defect of the statue, that the base was missing. And a small stick protruded from the bottom of the imperial room. And there was a small stick coming out from the bottom of that statue, because it was the statue of Emperor Kung. So he must be wearing that imperial robe, that kingly dress he must be wearing. And so out of that, there was a stick was coming out. A stick was jutting out, protruding from the bottom of the imperial robes. But in the eyes of Sir Alexander, nothing could detract from its overall beauty. But Sir Alexander was so lost in the beauty of that statue that nothing can detract, means take away, that nothing can take away even this flaw, even this defect, that the base was missing, that there was no base of the statue. This also was not enough to distract or take away the overall beauty of the statue for Mr. Heathcote. Although the craftsman's lips did not move, his eyes glowed with the pleasure his guest evinced as he studied the ivory emperor. So then he saw, earlier it has been told that Mr. Heathcote was not able to hide the excitement which became so obvious on his face the moment he saw the statue. So although the craftsman's lips did not move, so although the craftsman didn't say anything, but his eyes glowed, but he was very happy. When you have a guest at home, and when you have a very honorable guest at home, and that person becomes very happy on seeing something at your place, obviously you will feel great. You also will feel very happy. So this person, that craftsman, also felt very happy, and his eyes, they glowed, means they shone. There was a shine in his eyes with the pleasure he got, with the pleasure his guest evinced as he studied the ivory statue. Then he saw the pleasure that his guest felt on seeing that ivory statue. Pleasure which was evident on his guest's face. That made the craftsman also very happy. The craftsman also felt very happy, and his eyes glowed when he saw Mr. Heathcote's expression. He didn't say anything. You think this statue is good? Asked the craftsman through the interpreter. Then, after some time, the old craftsman, he asked to the interpreter, that is the Mandarin, that he wanted to know from Mr. Heathcote that whether he liked the statue or not. It's magnificent, the minister replied. Quite magnificent. My own work is not worthy to stand by its side, added the craftsman. So, Mr. Heathcote praised the statue. He said that it's very great, it's really very, very wonderful and a magnificent statue. And then the humble craftsman said that, yes, I know that my own work, any of my statues are not so good as this one. So any of my statues are not worthy enough, right? Are not great enough to be kept by the side of this statue. It is such a wonderful statue. No, no, said the minister. Though in truth the little craftsman knew the great man was only being kind. For Sir Alexander was holding the ivory statue in a way that already showed the same love as the old man had for him. So, this is what you will say, anyone will say. So, Mr. Heathcote also said the same thing. He said, when this humble craftsman said that I know this is a great piece, a very wonderful and a magnificent piece, and none of my statues are good enough, are worthy enough to be kept along with this statue. So, the minister said that, no, no, I didn't mean that, right? But the craftsman understood that he was just trying to be modest, that he was just trying to be kind, because he was aware of the reality of the statue. Means that the statue was really very wonderful, better than his own pieces. And the way Sir Alexander was holding the ivory statue in a way that already showed the love. He could sense, the craftsman could sense the same kind of love which he felt for the statue in the eyes of Mr. Heathcote. And the way Mr. Heathcote was holding this statue, it made it very obvious that Mr. Heathcote also feels the same amount of love for the statue as the craftsman felt for that statue. The minister smiled down at the craftsman as he handed back the Emperor Kung, and then he uttered perhaps the only undiplomatic words he had ever spoken in 35 years of serving his queen and country. So, what happened? After the minister had admired this statue, he returned the statue to the craftsman. He gave back the statue, and then he said something, and those words were the only undiplomatic words. Undiplomatic means tactless, without any tact. Right? Means without thinking, he said these words. They came out automatically from his mouth. So undiplomatic means without tact and kind of insensitive. Right? Diplomatic person always thinks before speaking, and he will always try to utter the right thing. Right? So they normally don't speak anything which is insensitive, which may sound insensitive, because they talk in a very balanced manner. So then whatever Mr. Heathcote said were perhaps the only undiplomatic, only tactless words which were uttered by him in his 35 years of career, because he was a diplomat, he was a foreign diplomat there, and so he knew what to talk, when to talk. But whatever he said here to the old craftsman, those were the only tactless words which he uttered in his 35 years of service to the queen and to the country, to his country. How I wish the peace was mine. So these were the undiplomatic words which were uttered by Mr. Heathcote. That how I desire, I really have a very strong desire that this statue belonged to me. Without thought, he uttered these words. He became so much attracted to that statue that without thinking, he spoke these words. And then what was the repercussion or the result of this? Sir Alexander regretted voicing his thoughts immediately. He heard the Mandarin translate. What happened? The moment he said, he regretted, he started repenting. That why did he say this? At times it happens in a flow of emotion, you say something and you start regretting, you start repenting the next moment. So the same thing happened to Sir Heathcote also. The moment he said that, how I wished the piece was mine, from the next moment he started regretting, oh, what did I say? Right? But what happened by that time? By that time, the Mandarin had already translated. The Mandarin had already translated his words in Chinese to the old craftsman. Because he knew only too well the old Chinese tradition that if an honored guest requests something, the giver will grow in the eyes of his fellow men by parting with them. Now we come to know about another Chinese tradition. The Mandarin immediately translated his words. Because the Mandarin being Chinese, he knew of the Chinese tradition that if you have an honored guest at home and the honored guest wishes to have something, then the giver should give that thing to the guest. What will happen? By doing so, he will grow in the eyes of his fellow men. Means he will be respected more in the eyes of his community, in the eyes of his people. If you have an honorable guest at home and he asks for something, he wants to have something from you, then it is your job, because Mr. Heathcote was at the craftsman's place and he expressed his desire to possess that statue. So now it was the duty of the craftsman to give that statue to him. Right? So if he wants to be respected, if he wants to grow in the eyes of his fellow men, in the eyes of his people. A sad look came over the face of the little old craftsman as he handed back the figurine to the minister. Figurine means a small figure, a small statue. So the moment he handed back that statue, a sad expression flashed over the craftsman's face. He became very sad. Why did he become sad? Because it was his family heirloom kind of a thing. It was like transferred from one generation to the other. From the past 7 generations, the family of that craftsman possessed that thing. And now there was a guest, and that too an honorable guest, who wished to have that statue. So, but then he wanted to grow in the eyes of his fellow men also. So, he gave that statue back to Mr. Heathcote with a sad look on his face. No, no, I was only joking, said Mr. Alexander, quickly trying to return the piece to the owner. So, because Sir Alexander had already realized what he said, right? He realized immediately. But then the things done cannot be undone, right? So, but he had already spoken it, and the Mandarin had already translated it to the craftsman. So he said that, no, no, I was just kidding. I was not very serious about it. You would dishonor my humble home if you did not take the emperor, your excellency. So he said that, your excellency, now if you don't take this emperor means the statue of Emperor Kung. If you reject this statue of Emperor Kung, because earlier you have already expressed your desire to have it, and if you decide not to take it, then it will be a great dishonor to my home. The old man said anxiously, and the Mandarin gravely nodded in. And the Mandarin also, because the Mandarin was very much aware of the Chinese tradition, so he also nodded in agreement. Means he also gave his consent to what the old man said, that now, sir, it would be better that you accept that statue. His meaning was that Mr. Heathcote should now accept that statue. The minister remained silent for some time. I have dishonored my own home, he replied, and looked towards the Mandarin, who remained inscrutable. So the minister remained silent for some time because he was not able to decide what to do. He understood the pain which the craftsman was feeling in giving that statue. Anyone will feel that pain, right? So he realized, he said that, forget about your home, I have dishonored my home by taking something which belongs to you from the past 7 generations. This is what he meant to say, that I have dishonored my own home by asking for that statue. He replied and looked, and then Mr. Heathcote looked towards the Mandarin who was with him, who remained inscrutable. And the Mandarin was not able to understand how he has dishonored his home. So inscrutable means he was not able to interpret, he was not able to understand what was the meaning of Sir Heathcote. The little craftsman bowed. I must fix the base on the statue. And it has been told earlier that this base of the statue was missing. There was no base of the statue. So, because now the little craftsman was gifting the statue to the to the minister, so he will obviously fix the base. He will gift it in a proper manner. And so, what he did, he went in search of a base. I mean, tried to find some base for that statue, suitable base for that statue, because the statue was a very, you can say, inquisitive piece of art. And so the base should also be appropriate. You can't just fix any base on such a grand and a magnificent statue. I must fix a base on the statue, he said, or you will not be able to put the piece to view. How will a statue stand without the base? Right? So because there was only a stick protruding from the emperor's gown, right? And so he needed to fix the base. So he went in search of the base. He went to the corner of the room and opened a wooden packing chest that must have housed 100 bases of his own statue. Then he went to one corner of the room and a box was kept there. He opened that box, and in that box there were hundreds of bases. Rummaging around, he picked out a base decorated with small dark figures that the minister did not care for. But the minister was not interested in any of the bases, right? The minister didn't actually care for any of the bases. He was only interested in the statue. And so he took out one base, and in that base, there were small dark figures were made in that base, and that the minister did not care for, but which nevertheless made a perfect fit. But because that base was a perfect fit to that statue, so he didn't have any problem. The old man assured Sir Alexander that although he did not know the base's history, the piece bore the mark of the good craftsman. So then the old craftsman revealed that he is not aware. He was aware of the history of the statue. He said, but I don't know anything about the base. I'm not aware of the history of this base, because this reveals that the base was not made by the old craftsman. He didn't make that base also. He said that he's oblivious of the history of the base, but the way the base is made, by just having a look of the base, you can very well make out that this also has been made by some great artisan, by some great craftsman. The embarrassed minister took the gift and tried hopelessly to thank the little old man. So, though he didn't want, but still, because it was the Chinese tradition, so he had to accept that gift, and hopelessly he tried to thank the little old man. The craftsman once again bowed low as Sir Alexander and the expressionless mandarin left the little workshop. Then he again greeted, and then they left. They wished farewell also is by one. So he just bowed and wished farewell, and then they left. As the party traveled back to Peking, the mandarin observed the terrible state the minister was in, and uncharacteristically spoke first. Uncharacteristically means it was not a characteristic, right? These mandarins, because he was just a translator, and he was a very respectable and an honorable minister. So these people who are subordinate to someone, they don't just utter anything and everything whenever they want. They only speak when they are asked to speak. So that was not the characters. That is why it is written uncharacteristically, which was not the normal characteristic of the Mandarin. So they went back to Peking, and the Mandarin could clearly see in what terrible state the minister was. The minister was not happy. Why was he not happy? Because he has actually taken away something which was very valuable to the old craftsman. Which was his, that statue was there with his family for several generations, from the past 7 generations. And he has taken that statue from him. So he was not feeling good. He was not feeling happy about it. So the Mandarin saw his condition, and then he spoke. Your Excellency is no doubt aware, he said, of the old Chinese custom that that when a stranger had been generous, you must return the kindness within the calendar year. Then the Mandarin told him about another Chinese tradition. He said, I'm sure that Your Excellency must be aware because you know so much about China and Chinese customs and traditions and Chinese people. So I'm sure that you must also be aware of the Chinese custom that if a stranger, a person who is a stranger to you, and he has shown any kind of generosity, he has given you something, then it becomes the responsibility of the taker of that gift, the receiver of that gift. It becomes his responsibility to return that kindness in some other way, to return that generosity within the same calendar year. Means within 1 year, he should return that generosity which he has received from a stranger. That was also a Chinese tradition. I think we should end here and we'll continue in the next term.